Why is it? Okay, cool. All right. Welcome everybody to CJUG meetup today. Very happy to have Nicolas Fränkel from France, and actually the French and Swiss border. That's where he's from. So if you need nice Swiss chocolate, you know who to go after. So yeah, welcome Nicolas. And then people may get confused about you looking like Anthony Bourdain, right? I think somebody on the Java community was teasing you, saying that, oh, doesn't he look like that? But anyway, I don't mean to say. So, but very happy to have you here. So today he's going to talk about APIs, and that's why I think everybody, one of you are coming because of the API talk. So thank you so much. And again, too, I'd like to also get your input if you have specific requests. Not that we can always meet your requests, but we can try if there are specific topics you like to listen to. And now, you know, with all the rise of AI, Gen AI, all of these things, we're also trying to get more topics in that too. So next month, in fact, we'll have Marcus who'll be talking about Gen AI, kind of building a ChatGPT app too, using Spring Boot, React, and also LangChain 4J, if you're familiar with LangChain. So it's not really LangChain, but it's 4J is the Java version of it. So, okay, so this is with Nicolas. Let me go. But first of all, before I start to, if you would like to enter into our JetBrains raffles, we have 2 licenses to raffle off. And if you like, you know, the only rule is that you cannot, you know, enter into the drawing if you were a winner within the past 9 months. But I think most of you are new, or I haven't seen you in the past 9 months. So I think, so it's very good to see you here again. Well, for some of you, I think I recognize Josh and Andre is here and a couple other people and Young and yeah, everybody. So if you are new here, thank you very much. If you haven't been here for a long time, thank you for coming back. Yeah, so thank you. So, okay, so this is the link and that's the QR code. And I can share this slide deck afterwards too with you if you need. And just some housekeeping. Please join our Chicago Tech Slack if you haven't already done so, and if you'd like to stay in touch with the rest of the community in the Chicago area, and even outside too. There are folks from outside the area. And then there's also Java Off Heap that's still ongoing with Bob Paulin, who's still a board member, as well as with Freddie Gimme. And also Josh Juno, who's actually been too busy now. He lives in the far western suburbs, as well as Michael Minella, who's the used to be Pivotal and now is like with Broadcom with the Spring project. So, and they are doing the Java off heap every so often. They're still doing it. And then please join us on meetup.com if you haven't already done so. That's the link. And follow us on X or Twitter, you know, just so you know, and that's our handle. And then also we are on Discord. If you haven't already joined us there and would like to join us, that's the Discord link. And then for today, we actually have, every time we try to create a room, and that's the link to join the room. It's always labeled by the date of the meetup and then also the topic areas too. So we encourage you to have more conversations if you find it useful, if you have more questions too. Some community info. We are a community partner of the following groups: JetBrains, DevITJobs.us. We are developers. They will actually be having a big conference. Apparently, it's like 20,000 people attending in Berlin every year, every summer too. So they're quite big in Europe. And then there's also JCon, which is a conference that's run by Java Pro magazine that's based in Germany. And then also a CoMotion, which is based in Italy. But this particular conference that they will be running will be in Madrid, 2024. They have some discount code for us. And actually, I should say CFP is already closed at this point. But if you're interested, that's the code. If you're going to France, not France, Spain in the summer, or not summer, in May. So May 19th, something like that. So. Okay, upcoming events. As I mentioned, Marcus Hellberg from San Francisco, but he's originally from Finland, and he's the VP of Developer Relations at Vaden. So he'll be doing a talk, and I've attended his talk. It's very interesting. He'll be showing you how to build a RAG. If you're familiar with Gen AI, ChatGPT, that stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, ChatGPT app, using Spring Boot, React, and LangChain 4J. on March 27th. So that's already up, that event, so please register for that. And that will be at Microsoft on Randolph. Yeah, that's where it will be. And then other confirmed speakers, we're still trying to find time to have Venkat to come here. He wants to come too, but he's also very busy. So at some point, we'll have Venkat again. And then Alina Yurenko, she's the kind of face of GraalVM, if you follow that. So she's based in, I think now she's in Switzerland now. Yeah, so, but otherwise she's from Ukraine originally. So she's like famous person for GraalVM. So we try to get her at least speak online. And then Jose Pomal, Joseph, okay, thank you. That's a proper French name of Josie from Oracle. So he's also interested in speaking for us too. So stay tuned for that if we can schedule him to come. And then for April, we may not have any meetup because right now it's just depending on volunteers' availability because I myself have to travel. So now you get 2 in March, but maybe April we'll take a break. So then we'll be back in May. So, and also we are thinking of meetup is sort of like unconference for people to come together and discuss things that matter to you and vote on it. So if you're interested, please let me know. We can try to arrange for that to happen. And if you're interested in speaking at CJUG, please submit your proposals to present at cjug.org. And for job seekers and recruiters, please feel free to join our CJUG group on LinkedIn if you haven't already done so. And then please feel free to share your story with the community today if you're job seekers or recruiters or looking for project collaborators. So this is something new that I want to experiment to see if folks like this idea, because at the AI camp, I did that, and it's actually people like it. So I'm just kind of curious too. I'm opening up the floor now. Does anybody have any, story you want to share? I mean, story in terms of if you're searching for a partner to work on your projects, or searching for a job, or looking for help. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Maciek Lewicki. I'm a
You're loud.
student at Illinois Institute of Technology. I'm in my second year. I've been going around to conferences and stuff like that for the last year or 2 years or so, volunteering, things like that. I actually started out, I thought it was too dumb for computers. I studied music when I was in undergrad. It's kind of been a tough climb, but I'm hanging in, and I they started with Java over at IIT, so I really like it over there, and I'm getting a lot more into Jakarta. So I'm just happy to be part of the community. I don't think I'm super job ready yet, but as far as like volunteering stuff, anything I can do, I'm absolutely happy and willing to help out. And I don't want to eat up the whole night. So.
Oh yeah, no worries. Thank you, Maciek. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, thank you. Yeah. So we'll remember.
ITM. Information Technology Management.
Okay. I'm usually there on Thursdays. I'm here now, so
Oh.
the campus. But I do IQ project there.
Oh yeah.
If you're interested, join next.
Where's it, Kaplan?
Not in Kaplan. It's next door. It's what's it called? The science center.
I'll talk to you after. Pritzker.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
On
Nice.
corner of 31st. And, yeah. So just reach out to me. Yeah. If you're interested in telescopes.
Oh yeah. I'll know that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Maciek. Really appreciate it, and Ron for sharing too. So, anybody else have any things you'd like to share at this point? No. Yeah.
Why are you looking at me?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because you are the main person, star of the night. So yeah. Okay. Well, don't worry about it. We'll have some time for more mingling afterwards too, and you can share then with individuals too. So okay. So now. I just want to kind of thank again past sponsor, JFrog. We want to thank them again. They were sponsoring us for the past 3 years, but now unfortunately they are not able to continue doing so in the meantime. And then also Fusion Auth too, who sponsored us last year as a silver sponsor. And then also some friends of CJUG that I like to just highlight: the Atlanta JUG, Boston Java User, ACM chapter in New England, and then Garden State JUG in New Jersey, Kansas City JUG from Missouri, and New York Java SIG in New York City, and Pittsburgh JUG, Pennsylvania. So these are kind of our special friends, but we are friends with the whole community too, which actually consists of over 200, 300 JUGs all over the world too. So And Nicolas can tell us too your jug tour. Actually, he's been doing some jug, visiting different jugs too. So, and now we want to introduce to you our speaker, Nicolas Fränkel, again from France, Swiss border. And he's a developer advocate for Apache APISIX, blogger at this particular blogging site, his site, and a consultant at GAMSOL, as GAM Solutions, is based in France, right? I looked that up.
It's Switzerland. It's my
Switzerland.
own company.
Oh, okay.
So when I'm bored, I do some consulting.
Nice. Yeah, very cool. And he's also an author, and that's his book on integration test. So yeah, so with that, the stage is back to, although I should say, I almost forgot, we need to thank IBM, and then for that, we have to introduce IBM's program, and we will have Ron to say a few words, right? And where is the...
What are you doing?
Where is it? I thought you were going to another... Oh, it's in the tab, the same... Within the same tab, I thought it's a different screen, so. And there we go. So yes, Ron can introduce the CAS program.
So there's a special group in IBM called Center for Advanced Studies. That's what CAS stands for. You should have probably written the full form somewhere for those who don't know anything about CAS. So Center for Advanced Studies, we work with universities. So I was just telling you, I go to different universities, including Illinois Tech. I'm doing a project with the telescopes over there, trying to network telescopes. So I do these kinds of open source crazy projects with universities. And this is our way of connecting with the universities. Okay, so if you're interested, just let me know. How do we get to the next one?
Normally, you should use my little clicker. And normally...
Is that the only one we have? Okay, that's fine.
There's another one, too.
I thought there was another page, but...
listen. Doesn't seem to be super great.
there we go. Okay, so where do I publish all this stuff? Where is today's live stream going? That's all going into this open development website and the YouTube channel. So do visit us. That's my telescope project, and I also have another car project, which is autonomous racing model cars. I'm doing with NC State University mainly, and but anyone who is interested, please join us. We're always looking for volunteers who want to contribute code or want to work with the students, or if you're a student, just join us. Okay? So thanks. I think that's all I have. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yep. That's all I had. So there you go.
Thanks. Nicholas. Thanks. I have this stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can you hear me like that? Yeah, okay, so I don't need the mic. In general, that's not the case. Just wanted to check. Well, it's good like this. Thanks to be here. If you want to tweet, use Mastodon, LinkedIn, whatever, may I ask you to use this super long hashtag? Because I'm not a marketer, so I forgot to say, oh, it's long to type. Also, if you don't want to be in the picture, that proves that I'm working and not visiting Chicago to my boss. Please put your hands in front of your face. Look happy. Thanks. So thanks to be here for this talk about evolving your APIs.
So before you actually start yourself, so we can hear you, but is the mic actually working for the folks on?
That's a good question. May I get some feedback from the folks on the other side of the stream?
Because I'm not sure if the mic is all usable.
No, that's perfect. That's a very, very good.
No, I can get the feed.
Okay, okay. Can the people on the other side, no, not on the other side of the stream, give feedback, or it's just one way? Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thanks. So I'm Nicolas Fränkel. I've been a developer for 17 years now. No, I was a developer for 17 years. I worked in project as a consultant. I went through all the regular steps, from like developer to team lead, to architect, solution architect, whatever. Then I became very dissatisfied with how projects are run, with like impossible requirements, changing requirements, crazy deadlines coming out of the hat. And I decided, people don't want to listen to me, that's fine, I will become developer advocate. So if people don't listen to me, that will be fine. What the hell? And now it's this crap doing this. Okay. So who here has been working on a REST project? Who has developed their own API? Okay, who wants to develop or intend to develop an API project? Good, so nearly all the people who are listening, Mary is already lost. So I mentioned to you a couple of issues in project, like changing requirements, schedule and stuff. Plus, when you do your API, you think about your entities, the relationship between the entities, the boundaries. And on top of that, you have to decide what is REST. Because, well, I know I'm in the US, so I make very stupid jokes. So if you feel offended, please leave the room. I don't want to offend anybody. But it is like some people say REST is like the Bible, you know. Somebody came, wrote stuff, left, and now it's up to everybody to decide what's written in there. And they don't agree with each other, of course. So that's why I always try to avoid the REST stuff. I say RESTful, but still, people don't agree. So you had lots of issues to solve. And actually, you forgot one thing, because too many issues. It was versioning. You didn't think about versioning your API. So when the business comes and say, hey, we want to do V2 because your project is super successful, this might be your reaction. It's not a nice reaction, but it's understandable. So in this talk, I want to give you a couple of tips and tricks so that, well, next time you've got some version to do, you don't react like this. But first, we shall agree on the initial situation. So you've got an upstream, an app, and then you've got a couple of endpoints. Is that correct? Okay, you all lied. Hopefully. Hopefully you lied. Probably there is a reverse proxy in front of your app. Who has no reverse proxy? Who serves their APIs directly over the internet? Yeah, good. That's smart. But you lied. So you have a reverse proxy. And my solution to your versioning problem is instead use an API gateway. Good. Do you have any questions? Thanks a lot. No question at all. I will go to it later, but I was expecting a very simple question, sorry.
So how does it actually fix your problem?
Yeah, like what's the difference between a reverse proxy, which doesn't fix your problem, and an API gateway that is supposed, according to me, to fix your problem? That was the question I was expecting to have. But I'm in Finland here. Like people, they don't interact with the speaker. Yeah, you know the joke about, Markus Hellberg is Finnish, right? And there is a joke that, they are very shy people. They don't like to have social interactions. So how you do recognize an extrovert Finn?
Oh, he's looking at your shoes, not his.
Yeah. You are from Poland, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Chicago, but yes.
Yeah, you are from Chicago because you smile too much. Okay, so for me to explain the difference, I need to go back a bit. So as you can see, I have gray hair, which means I have experience. Not that I'm old, I have experience, right? And I started to use the internet before 2000. Have you been born in 2000? So I assume it's a no. Yeah, I know, it's scary, right? And at the time, there was no YouTube, no tutorials, no nothing. So to create my own website, I looked at the source code of other websites. And at the time, I started with images already. Perhaps some of you started with no images, links, no? Oh, it's much later. I will talk about Dreamweaver. Also, you could put a file at the root of your website, a MIDI file, and it would start playing when you enter the site. That was really awful user experience, right? But I did it. Who did it as well? Hey, yeah. No CSS. So in order to craft your buttons, you use tables, and you add to use different colors to have this nice bevel effect. Semantic web for the win. And well, it's a Java user group, so I can say bad stuff about JavaScript. There was no JavaScript at the time. Yeah, that was good. And yeah, to do that, I use something called Hotdog Pro. Do you recognize Hotdog Pro? Who has ever heard about Hotdog Pro? Yeah, did you use it? Yeah, you remember? So basically, the great stuff that it brought you is that you had all the available tags, so you could click on a button and it would insert the tag. But then you would need to remember to use the same button to close the tag. Then came Dreamweaver, actually, which made our life so much better, but for the generated code, which was crap, right? So, but it was still like WYSIWYG. At the time, I didn't think much about it, but on the other side, there was a web server to serve the content. So what I just did is I just uploaded my files to a server, to an FTP server, and on the other side, there was a web server that read the file and served them. But it was not enough because we are developers. We wanted to do more stuff. So some stupid stuff we wanted to have is to display the date inside of the page, although you had it everywhere else, like including your computer. But some stuff that was useful actually was the last updated timestamp, because you didn't want every time to update this data. So we wanted to have dynamic content. It was possible through CGI scripts. Actually, the CGI script will generate HTML. But since you are Java developers, you wouldn't think about creating a web app with just servlets, right? It would be very, very bad developer experience. What you want is to have a GSP, which is basically just HTML, and in place, you want to have dynamic inserts. And that was the idea behind PHP. PHP, which means personal homepage, by the way. To just change the acronym meaning, because it doesn't look super professional, but at the beginning, that was just an Apache mode. So just a mode inside the Apache web server. But it didn't stop there, because at this stage, not only geeks wanted to have their websites, but companies. And if a geek like loses their website, they don't care. Really. Okay, your uptime now starts from 0 again, but where? But if a company starts using the web as a regular communication channel, you want the site to be always up, because you want to project the image of something reliable. And so we added another layer of web server that actually didn't serve anything. It was just for redundancy and load balancing in case of high load. And it didn't stop there, because after a time, everybody used the internet. But also you wanted to give extranet access and intranet access and whatever net access. So the nodes that were similar in the previous stage, now they were different. And this second layer of web server couldn't just dumbly load balance the load. They had to understand that, okay, this needs to go to those nodes because it's an extranet, and those requests need to go to those nodes because it's an intranet request. And this is actually the evolution of the web server, from serving static content to serving dynamic content to load balancing and to routing. If you are an architect, or if you are an architect mindset, because we don't care about the position, now that we have this second layer of serving that doesn't serve anything, it's very easy to think, oh, we can push like cross-cutting concerns into this entry point. We can, for example, protect our apps from being DDoSed by implementing rate limiting here and not in every node. Perhaps we can cache some stuff. Perhaps we can authenticate, whatever. And in parallel, there was another need, exchange information across companies. And it started very stupidly. You send a file to a FTP server. Then on the other side, there is a bad job that reads the file, does the processing, renames the file to done. It works well if you accept that your data is integrated every hour or every day. But if you want to have something synchronous, then you did something different. The biggest problem is that most companies, they don't use the same technology. You might use Java, but somebody else might use Python, JavaScript with Node, or whatever. So just as with asynchronous, we used FTP, with synchronous, we used HTTP. And that's the idea behind an API gateway. It means that it's just a specialized reverse proxy that knows how to handle APIs. I told you about rate limiting. Rate limiting is just a basic feature in every reverse proxy. The problem is that reverse proxy treat each request in the same way. Once you start getting into APIs, you might say, or probably your business will say, there is a lot of money in here. Perhaps my API will offer like differentiated access if you pay me what. And now your reverse proxy, which was designed at a technical component, now needs to handle business rules. Business rules change all the time. And that's another problem with most reverse proxies. For example, Nginx, which is a very stable, very mature, very widespread one. It's an open source version. If you want to change the configuration, you need to switch it to off and on again. It's not great if it's your entry point to the information system. So my definition of an API gateway is twofold. First, it's not unfriendly to business logic, and it can be changed, configured dynamically. You will find many other definitions. But since it's my presentation, that's my definition. All set for the difference? Good. Yeah, okay, I thought you were. Yeah, we are not that many people, so you can ask questions, no issues. There are a couple of like open source API gateways. I will only list the open source ones that you can install on-premise. So I'm working on the Apache APISIX one. So I will use it in the demo, but there are Kong, Tick, Glue, Ambassador, Gravity, many. Just 2 slides about Apache APISIX. It's quite a mature project already. It's part of the Apache Foundation. Who knows about the Apache Foundation? Yeah, most people know about the Apache Foundation. So the idea, when you give a project to the Apache Foundation, first it joins the incubator. I would really advise you to come like closer, otherwise you won't see the code afterwards. Okay. And then after you like fulfill a couple of requirements, then you join your own project. You have like a subdomain inside of Apache, which is the case now. So you can find us at api6.apache.org. The architecture is like pretty simple. Nginx, as I mentioned it, like stable, mature, widespread, reverse proxy. Problem, you cannot change the configuration dynamically. So for that, there is a project called OpenResty. Very good. It's Lua based, so you can actually change the configuration with Lua codes dynamically. However, if your project grows, and if you use an API gateway, there is a chance it will grow, then it's not that maintainable because the configuration is very similar to the one of Nginx itself. So Apache APISIX puts on top that some abstractions, such as what is a route, what is a service, what is an upstream, and actually also does some service discovery and introduce the notion of plugin. So everything in Apache APISIX is plugin based. So I've talked a lot, and now I will do some demos. So I told you, introduce an API gateway and everything will be fine. And I will show it to you. So the first thing is I will start Docker Compose up. And where is my friend Docker? I hope it's there. Yeah, it's there. And then I will describe the Docker Compose file. Everybody is familiar with Docker Compose? Okay, great. Sorry? Oh. Okay, so I will describe it for you. That's fine. Not, it's APISIX. So here first we have APISIX. APISIX stores its configuration in etcd, which is a key value store, the same one used by Kubernetes. Then I will have the dashboards. It's another way to configure everything. Prometheus and Grafana, because I want everything to be monitored and I want to show, like to be able to check the monitoring. And I have the old API and the new API. So what do I mean by old API and new API? This is my old API. It's a Spring Boot application. And because it's a Spring Boot application and it's written with Java, I have lots and lots of annotations. I love annotations because I'm a Spring Boot developer. And so here is how it works. I can curl it. That's how good a developer I am. I can write hello world apps. And I have written it because it doesn't look that great. I have written it in Kotlin. Because Kotlin is much better than Java, right? Everybody knows about it. Because you didn't try it. So here I have my Kotlin app. And then icing on the cake, I was able to write everything into a single file and have only one single annotation. All the rest is declarative through Kotlin DSL. And the result is obviously much better. Yes. So everybody agrees this is a much better version. So we should actually migrate to this new version. I told you let's use an API gateway. So the API gateway is there. And not the, sorry. It shouldn't have worked. So first I need to down everything because it's already configured. Yeah, this is the expected message. I just started the stuff, so it's not configured. I need to start to configure the API gateway. How do you configure the API gateway? Well, it depends on the gateway, but with Apache APISIX, we can send requests. Like you have APIs to configure your API gateway. So I have this route, APISIX admin routes. I will make a put request. So because it's a sensitive operation, right? You don't want everybody to be able to change your configuration. There are multiple ways to secure it. The first thing is there is a dedicated port. So this port, you shouldn't expose it probably to the outside world. And then I have an API key, which is a default one, which is super stupid, but it's a demo. So you have multiple ways to protect it. The payload is the following. You have a name, which is optional, but it's good thing to use it. Then you have a method, which is the default one. I think it's get, put, and posts. And if the method and the URI match the request, then it will forward the request to this upstream. So here, because it's a demo, I have a single node. In general, you probably would have multiple nodes because, well, redundancy. And more importantly, in the age of container, you probably want to have some service discovery. So you don't write them directly. You rely to a service discovery that will add and remove nodes as they come and go. But here, it's a demo, so I have only this one. And as I mentioned, I have a plugin. Everything is plugin based, and this one is a Prometheus plugin. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. If this doesn't work, all my demo is okay, whatever. It works, which is good. And now, if I redo the same requests, it works again. And now you can question me saying, oh, we are back to square one. How can we be impressed? That's the third mobile call that I hear. On the fourth one, I will be very, very unhappy. You don't want to see me unhappy. So we are back to square one. So now it's time to go further. The first thing that we need to do is to introduce versioning, right? We are here for that. There are a couple of ways to version your HTTP API. The first one, the one that I will use here, is to have it in the path, like v1, v2, v whatever. The second one is to use a query parameter. I've never seen it used in the wild. Every site mentions, hey, you can use query parameter. Yes, okay, but don't do it. Nobody does it. Don't do it. The third one is through a header. It can be a custom header, like X version, or it can be an accept header. And then you have application JSON, VND, v1. Up to you. In the demo, I will use path-based because it's the most visible one. But both solutions work. Both solutions are used. And more importantly, all three solutions are supported by Apache APISIX. So how do we do that? Guess what? API calls. But here, I will try to be smarter. Beforehand, I created everything in one call. I told you I want to have abstractions. I want to be reusing some things that I will be using multiple times. So here, I will do that. The first thing is I will create an upstream. So in the previous thing, the upstream was anonymous. It was inside the routes. Here, I will create a dedicated upstream. The second is I will create a global rule. And the reason for this is in the first one, I set plugin Prometheus, meaning every time I want to monitor something, I want to have plugin Prometheus. And probably what will happen next, somebody will forget it. And given Murphy's law, it will be the route that doesn't work and that you want to monitor. So I want everything to be monitored by default. And that's the idea of global rule. It's a plugin that applies by default to every route that you will create. And finally, I will create the version route. So I create the route with ID number 2. Again, I have a name. Here, the URI pattern is different. I reference the upstream that I created. And I need to reference a plugin that I created. Why do I need to have a plugin config? The problem is because I'm introducing a v1. If I just forward the request, it will forward v1/hello to the upstream. And the upstream doesn't know about v1/hello. It only knows about hello. So I need to remove the v1 prefix, which is done here. It's proxy rewrite. It should work like this, v1 something, and then I just transfer something. I don't know if I run it, so I will do it now. And now, I have v1/hello and hello. Amazing. And since I'm here, I can show you the dashboard. And obviously, the password is not admin. You should change it in production. And here we can see the 2 routes that I've created now. We can see the upstream that I created. And we can see the plugin, the global rule. If you want your business user, you can give them this tool. And it's directly JSON, so if I modify it here, it's modified here as well. Here is you see the JSON that is stored into etcd. So you can have one tool for your business users and one tool for your power user or your DevOps or however you want to call them. Good. So now we are but further, but that's just the beginning, because now we have 2 routes. So first thing is your current users, they will continue using the inversion route. And new users, there is a chance they will still use the inversion one because, well, that's less characters to type, right? So we want to contact them. We want to tell them, hey, we are going to change our path. Please update your code. But the thing is that in order to grow your product, you just released it in the wild for everybody to use. You didn't want to put any registration friction. So you don't know your users. You don't know who is calling you. So the only way to do that is just to tell them, hey, it's not there anymore. Our friend, the 301. How can we do that? Remember, everything is a plugin. So on the first route, we do a patch, which is redirecting to v1, whatever was called, and getting a 301. So now, if we do this, oops, 301. So that's a good lesson for you as consumers of API. You should always monitor your consumption because the provider might decide for whatever reason to change something. But you can object that you are very smart, and I believe you, because you are doing auto redirects. You know, that's why I told you to come further here. You can do auto redirects, right? We don't need to monitor. Yes, you do. Because now you are sending one request, you receive the response that tells you now you need to go somewhere else, and you receive the response. So you have just doubled the number of requests, and probably your cloud budget as well, which is never a good idea. So always, as API consumers, always monitor your usage. Okay, now at this point, you can realize, oh, we did a mistake, or perhaps it was not a mistake, it was a good idea that we didn't ask for people to register. But now we have a critical mass, now we can ask them to register. But of course, we want an incentive, because if I ask you to register, who wants to give out their emails to some crappy marketers? Nobody wants it. No? We are smart people. But we love free stuff. So you can design a shrewd strategy saying, okay, you can keep using our API for free. You don't need to register, but you will be rate limited. If you register, we remove this restriction. So how can we implement it? Through a plugin. Unfortunately, there is no plugin for this exact use case. So what I did is I created a plugin for this written in Lua. So everything is web-based in Apache APISIX, though you can use other languages. Who here is a Lua developer? Oh, shit. So I don't show you the code. Because I'm not a Lua developer. So I don't want to shame myself in front of you. I just copy-pasted an existing plugin, the rate limiting plugin, and I added my logic. And the logic was, hey, if you are authenticated, break, return. Don't execute further logic. And this is it. So the configuration looks super similar to the rate limiting one. And now, if I call it I'm rate limited. Don't try this API. It doesn't work. There is no api6.org. It's api6.apache.org. It's just for fun. The registration itself is outside the scope of this talk. You should provide a way for people to register. Now, there comes the authentication part. So we've got lots and lots of authentication plugins available. Like we have OpenID Connect, we have Keycloak, lots and lots of them. What I will be using here is the most stupid, the simplest one, the one you probably shouldn't use in production, but again, it's a demo, is I will create what we call a consumer. And a consumer is very easy. It will look for a header with name API key. And if the value of this API key is my key, then I will be authenticated as John Doe. So new route, consumers one, it's a put. I create it. So I told you if I have a header with name API key with value my key, I'm not rate limited anymore. So we are nearing completion. Everything should work. We know our users. Now we just need to deploy V2, right? But before we put users in V2 as developers, what do you do after you have finished coding? You or before sometimes. You test. Who doesn't test? Okay, you test. Yeah, you looked around, right? You were afraid to, oh, he's not testing. Who here is doing unit testing? You are not doing unit testing. You are not doing unit testing. Okay, that's fine. Who is doing integration testing? Less people. Who is testing in production? There is no test like prod. And everybody, you all lied again, everybody is testing in production. Yeah, you were super honest. You were testing in production. Everybody tests in production. And the reason is, especially in the realm of APIs, you can have the best unit test, the best integration test. At some point, the production workload will break your stuff. It will send you a header you were not expecting, a value of a header you were not expecting, some crappy character. There will be some hard blow. So at some point, you will test in production. Anyway, in order to reduce the risk of this test in production, which doesn't discard unit and integration testings, by the way, you should do both, we will probably do some canary release. So the idea of canary release is before, well, not before, but after you release something, instead of releasing to everybody, you release to a fraction of your users. They are the canary. They will tell you if something is bad, they will break, and then you can all of you other users are not impacted. But that's already one step too much, in my opinion. Before you do canary release, what you can do is you can like duplicate the production workload and send it to your V1 and your V2. And then you check the HTTP status code. If they are similar over X requests, there is a high chance that it works. So before doing canary release, we will do this kind of stuff. It's called proxy mirror. And here, I will stop on this code, and I will send myself some congratulations. Because this code works now, as expected. When I first joined APISIX, this code was not possible. The problem is, in order to know which plugin to execute in which order, APISIX needs to know about the priority of each plugin. And when I joined, the priority was hard-coded. It still is. The priority of each plugin is hard-coded. So APISIX, very simply, execute them in order of their priority. The problem is that the proxy mirror plugin had higher priority than the proxy rewrite plugin. So who can see the problem? The problem is, first, it forked, it duplicated the production workload before we removed the prefix. So it was sending v1/hello to the v2 version. And again, v1 or v2, they don't know about v whatever/hello, they only know about /hello. So through hard work, through patience, and because of my colleagues were listening to me and were smart enough, then now you can actually change the priority of the plugin at runtime. And now the proxy rewrite has a higher priority than proxy mirror, and it works. There is an abstraction, well, not an abstraction, a very leaky abstraction that I don't mention here is, beside priorities, every plugin belongs to a phase. The reason for that is as Nginx like define those phases. whatever the priority, you cannot change the phase of a plugin. The priority are only inside the phase of the plugin. So I don't remember if I did it. So now I will curl multiple times. And because I can do this, amazing, right? Yeah, I need some to send some loads. Good. A couple more. And now I can show you something that I did since the beginning. I didn't show you yet. I can show you Grafana. So here is a default APISIX dashboard. And I've added two widgets. The old API and the new API, and the metrics are the number of HTTP status code of each. So of course, here the scales, they are different. And in production environments, you probably wouldn't be looking at the dashboard. You'd be measuring it much better. But now we can see that this is probably the same curves. They are more or less the same. We can decide for the demo it's good enough. They behave the same. The V1 and the V2 behave the same. We can go further. And further is time for canary release. Because in the previous example, we discard the response of the V2. We just are interested in the HTTP status code, but we discard the response. So we have reduced the risk, but there is still a risk. So now we want to deploy the V2, and we want to do canary release. You can do canary release. The usual way to do canary release is you start with a small fraction of your user, depending on your context, 1% or 5%. Then you monitor everything that it still works for them. Then you increase this fraction, you increase. And when it reaches 100%, congrats, you have deployed V2. You can also do it based on header. So it's just not a random. It can be, hey, this header, you send it here. Or it can be based on IP or GeoIP or whatever. For the demo, I will just use random, and it will be 50-50. Because I don't want to send like 1,000 requests to get one. So I will create a new upstream. This plugin config, I will remove the proxy mirror. I will remove what I did before, and then I will split. And basically, the upstream with ID2 will have the same weight, 1, as the upstream with ID1 defined previously. So if both have the same weight, it will be 50-50. Oh, yep. So 1 over 2 calls is forwarded to the V2 version. Again, you start small and then you increase. We can make sure with the same stuff that it looks the same. Again, you monitor, you make sure everything works as expected. Guess what? We are pretty good right now, right? We've got one problem left. Is now we have V1 and V2, and probably there will be V3, V4, V5, whatever. So as an engineering manager, you've got multiple versions to update and maintain, and it costs you in the budget. Right? You need to split your budget over all those versions. So we need to remove some of them. Just like in Java, you want to deprecate your APIs. So I didn't find anything but an IETF draft. And I believe the last time I checked, this IETF draft was itself deprecated because nobody has worked it for too long, which is funny. But still, there is nothing better. It defines a deprecation header, which can be a Boolean. You shouldn't use it. Or a date in the future, please. I will be using the Boolean in the demo because it's easier, but normally you should use a date. Users of your API will see, hey, if the date is in the past, I'm using a deprecated endpoint. If it's in the future, I should probably migrate out of this API. You have a link header that points to the new version of the API. And if you want to be extra nice, you have a sunset header, again in the future, and after the deprecation that says, after this point, there will be nothing here. And another good reason, you should always monitor your API consumptions to check for new headers. If a new header appears, probably it should trigger a warning. So here, it's the easiest one. We create the routes. So we already had created the upstream. Here I put the plugin inside. And now, if we call this, what did I do? Did I run it? Yes. Sorry. It's this one. So I've created the V2, and now I remove the traffic split on the V1, and I rewrite the response to add some headers. As I mentioned, deprecation is a Boolean here. Because it's a demo, it should always be a date. And the link is the link to the new version. And here I'm using Nginx syntax, not to hard code everything. So if I call it again, I have the deprecation true and the link to the resource to use. And of course, now it's the easiest part. I can call the V2. Amazing. So now is the final step. Enjoy. I believe that if you implemented all the steps that I've shown here, if business comes for the free, it will be like a walk in the park. The good thing about what I've shown you is that, of course, it's better to do them before you release your unversioned version, but you can still implement them like I've shown you afterwards. So if you already have an API that is not versioned, you can do that. Thanks a lot. You can follow me on Twitter, on Mastodon, on Blue Sky. I don't know what will survive. You can check the GitHub repo. I'm using a bit.ly link so that I can check how many people did actually open the link. And if you're interested in Apache APISIX, even though the talk was not about it, have a look. Then it increases the number of visits on my website. And then my boss is happy, and I can come here next year if possible. Thanks a lot. And now we have how much time for questions? 15 minutes. Or 4 pizzas. It's up to you. Yes.
When somebody's accessing a deprecated API version to a route, would it be correct to redirect it to the new version, or just to display a message saying you are just accessing a deprecated?
So I will repeat the question because I'm not sure on the other side everybody listens. The question is, when somebody accesses a deprecated endpoint, should they be forwarded to the new one, or should you tell them, hey, there is an issue? You should never, in my opinion, ever forward them to the new endpoint. Never. You should let them know that something is wrong, and now it's up to them to decide, okay, I will use the new endpoint. Sometimes it happens that they are breaking changes. So if you forward them to the new, doesn't work. If there is no breaking change, they will get used to that everything is cool. And at some point, you will introduce some breaking changes anyway. And they will complain, saying, oh, but before we were redirected. What happens? Why? So I work in IT for more than 20 years now. I always said that one of the hardest problems is about implicitness. You talk to the business, and for them something is implicit, and for you it's not. Scala goes even further to have an implicit keyword in their crappy language. I hate that. Everything should be as explicit as possible. The best projects are run with people who are explicit, who don't make any assumptions. So no, be explicit about it. Tell them, like in this message, hey, whatever. You can also have a message saying, hey, no, don't use it. And it's a very good question, by the way. Yes? Sorry, does API 6 course? Ah, COR, yes, there is a plugin. There is so the question is, does API 6 manages course? And the answer is yes, we have a CORS plugin, yes. Actually, everything is plugin based. You can look at the list of plugins, and if somehow we don't have the plugin for your need, like there is here, if the plugin can be genericized enough, you can write it and contribute it back, which is awesome, I believe. Here, in my specific example, this was a very, very business-specific plugin, so I didn't contribute it back. Other questions? Yes?
So back to kind of a part two of the question you just answered. What do you do if you're the only one on a team of people where you have this idea about nothing should be explicit? And everybody's like, oh, no, no, don't worry, it's fine. They'll know.
So the question is, if you are the only person in a team having whatever ID, I will make your question generic.
Yes.
And the answer is you are not in the right team. Whether your ID is good or bad. If your colleagues can explain to you why your ID is bad, then it's up to you to understand it and change your mind. If you work in an environment where they just say, it has always been like this, vote with your feet. I mean, I know the current situation is not super great for software developers, but still, you have lots and lots of choices. So if you're not happy in a specific company or in a specific team, change your team, change your company. I've always managed my career like this. I never thought, oh, I will become this in 5 years. I worked, I was happy, everything was fine, I stay. If something at some point feels wrong, if my ideas are not heard, if whatever, okay, I will leave. I will find another place. I'm not saying it's the team's fault or the company's fault. I'm saying, well, we are not a good fit anymore. You speak Polish?
I do.
Kurwa mać.
Whoa.
Other questions? Yes.
As a student, how do you think I could set myself up to be this kind of developer where it's like I have these choices, or I can make these, I have these, you know what I mean? I can
Yes.
open these up for myself.
So the question is about career management. As a student, how can I do this? And that's the problem, that's the limit of my help to you, is I was student more than 20 years ago in France. And so whatever advice I could have, they probably are completely irrelevant. So I prefer to say I have no clue than to give you bad advices. Yeah, you're welcome.
And also from the market, looks like it's
Yeah, I also taught in. Yeah, I also taught in universities for 20 years, and yeah, the longer I taught, the harder it was for me to give any advice. Especially Switzerland, where I work since 15 years, is also very senior focused. I mean, they have money, they don't care. They just throw money to get somebody who can like start from the beginning. I couldn't help my students then. I'm afraid I cannot help you even less now.
Well, how about for somebody in your position? What would you say? How do you keep options open for yourself?
Me, again, that's what I told. As long as I feel well in an environment, I see no reason to leave. At some point, so far, it has worked like I had some crappy managers or crappy company or whatever. Either from the beginning or it's like evolved like this, then it's easy. I just leave. Or I become bored. For me, that's another reason to leave is, okay, I've seen everything that this environment could teach me, and now it would be nice. But that's very personal, right? Some people prefer stability, some people prefer to learn, some prefer challenges, some people prefer 9 to 5, some people prefer challenges. For example, I'm autistic, so I hate unexpected stuff. I hate it. So I never worked in prod. I never worked in ops. I really hate it. Because when I wake up in the morning, I want to know what I'm going to do. Of course, you never know completely, but still, I know, oh, I will work on this feature. Or I will do this talk today. In production is always, oh, something is burning, so I hate it. Some people, they love it. Some people like the stress, like the challenge. They also like the money that comes with, like when you are on call. It depends. What my advice could be, try to find what you like, and then it will be super easy. But it's very hard. You need to try different things. So if you're at the beginning of your career, well, try different stuff. Check what you like. Then it will be easier. Yes?
So, are there any other plugins that can do like rate limiting? Like you said, this
Yes.
has rate limiting. Throttling. How about throttling? How about
Wait, 2 seconds. So, are there any plugins to do rate limiting? Yes, there are 3 different ones, and they have different slide semantics. What about throttling? Throttling is on the client side. Throttling is on the client side, so you don't make too many requests, so you don't overcall and you get the 4 to 9. So it has nothing to do with Apache APISIX.
even with, let's say, like someone is trying to make a video.
But that's rate limiting. Again, on the server side, you have rate limiting. On the client side, you have throttling.
Maybe I was talking about the burst.
Sorry?
Burst. The burst.
Yeah, look, again, there are 3 different plugins with slight different semantics, and they all care about rate limiting. Yes, you were about to ask a question? Yeah, since you are mentioning like committing, being a committer on an open source project to show something, because that's the vicious circle, right? You are not recruited because you have nothing to show, and you have nothing to show. So yeah, being an open source committer could help. on the technology that you want to work on, of course. Yes? Can APISIX? So the question is whether APISIX coexists with Spring. As you've shown you, there are two, like the old API and the new APIs are both Spring apps, but they are completely unrelated, right? There is no Java code in APISIX. An API gateway is just like an entry point into the rest. So of course you can use Spring Boot, you can use Quarkus, you can use Python apps, you can whatever you want. That's not a problem. As long as it's a web-based stuff, that it's request response.
More specifically, there is a Spring Cloud gateway, but it doesn't, it's a very simple route.
I have written, if you are interested in comparing Spring Cloud Gateway and APISIX, I've written the blog post because I myself was a Spring Boot developer, a Spring developer before that, and I was interested to understand this Spring Cloud Gateway stuff. It's very good if you are a Spring Boot developer, if you have no ops, or at least you are in your team and you want a Spring, an API gateway only for let's say a sub-part of your information system that is under your control, right? But the biggest flaw that I have found with Spring Cloud Gateway is it's very hard to operate it if you are a regular ops. You will want to do YAML. Yes, you can configure Spring Cloud Gateway with YAML on a very, very limited set of features. So I'm not a big fan of Spring Cloud Gateway, but again, in your context, it might be a great fit. I see for myself, there are more problems with it in most contexts. But I might be subjective.
Well, I'm also some subjective. I'd say for something simple that could work, but like once the complexity grows,
and that's the problem, because your gateway is an investment. If you invest into something simple and then your requirements start to become more complex, then you need to change the gateway, which is not great, or you will push it up to the point where it's not maintainable anymore. So I'm not, again, I've really tried to analyze it in a very objective way, and for most of the time, it's not great, in my opinion. Yes? So the question is, in production, how would I store the configuration? So what I've shown you there is the dynamic way to configure Apache APISIX. You store the configuration in etcd. And of course, if you are doing production, you will want to back up etcd. Because if you lose etcd, you lose everything. The biggest problem is when your configuration grows and grows and grows and grows, then you will have the dashboard, perhaps to give you a graphical way to look at the configuration, but it might be unwieldy at some point. So there are different modes, and one of the modes is the static mode. Instead of like having etcd, you store everything in static files, static YAML files, and then you do GitOps. Because Apache APISIX reloads the file, I think, every second, I think. And so you could have like completely stateless nodes that are synchronized on the same GitHub repo and everything. I think if you are being serious, that's the way you should do it in production. Okay. Yes.
What do you think is like, is going to happen for the native cloud gateways? Like AWS has their own API gateway product, and like Azure has the Azure API gateway. GCP has their own gateway, and they have better controls over how you get the request and CDN, all of that stuff before.
Yeah, so the question is about like regular gateways versus cloud gateways, yeah? How do you compare? So Well, cloud gateways, cloud provider gateways, they are much more integrated into the one you want to, the cloud you want to use, but their feature set is much more limited. So it depends again on the context, right? So it depends. What do you prefer? What do you need? Do you need a large set of features? Then probably it's not a great fit. If you're happy with a limited set of features, then perhaps you can start with them. And when your requirements don't fit anymore, you can migrate. Good luck at that time. So it's a risk. And it's up to you to decide if it's worth the risk or not. Yeah, sorry, most of my answers are it depends, but because it depends.
That is the right answer.
Yeah, in general, if you just say it depends, you look very smart, but it's a shitty answer. So I try to make you understand what the pros and the cons in each case. And then you can decide. Other questions? Yes? Okay, so the question is about the priority that I've shown. Is it like the registration? It's not a registration. There is no beans underneath. The priority means that APISIX will execute these plugins in the order of the priority. No, not when it launches it. That the problem that now you are like Spring tainted. You think about how Spring works. This has nothing to do with container injection or whatever. It's just, it has some plugins for a route, and it will execute the code of the first plugin with the highest priority, and then go and go and go and go. So if a plugin changes the header, then the next plugin in the order of priority can access the header value, for example. Okay, if you think like Spring, it's like a filter. You can think about a plugin like a filter. You register them, and then they execute in a certain order. Yeah, good analogy? Yeah.
Filters would be like probably the closest.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Hello? Okay, that's good. Okay, so everybody got your name in, is that right? But let me go back to the to this here. So currently we have Sumant, and then Andres Olarte, and then Jun Park, Abhishek K, Stephen Noto, Olga Andres Pina, and Jesus Chavez. Have I got everybody in? Yeah?
Jesus Chavez.
Jesus Chavez. Okay. I know he's a linguistic expert. Okay. Yeah. And you too? And what was your name? Yeah. Mia. Mia? Okay, so maybe you didn't fill in that form. Mia. Okay. Anybody else would like to be in the raffle? Oh, they're entering in, right? Yeah. I have to actually go back to that. I have to go that license drawing to get the. Okay. Oops. Okay. Yes, now think I see a couple more people, right? Pav Patel, and okay, Mia, I got you. So Pav and actually, let me just enter by hand. Vipsa, Dawani, and Pav, right? Ah, ah. I think it's. Where's my thing? Oops. I got too many things too. Wheel of names. So maybe you can help me. Pav, that's right. And then Vipsa, and I think one more name. Who else? Who else is supposed to be there? Neil Patel and Dhruvan. Okay, let me just do that. Actually, let me do that. I think these ones I haven't got. So ah. Okay, I've tried twice. Okay, let me kind of make sure I got everybody in here. Okay, again, Suman, Andre.